So did everybody get the question which Naresh is asking? Let me repeat the question for you guys. So the question that Naresh has asked, that in linear and logistic, so this particularly applies to linear and logistic regression. Okay. So this is about feature selection. This is about feature selection, which means feature means columns, right? So selecting the right columns. Let's say you have 100 columns in your data. Now you cannot build a model on all 100 columns, so you will do a feature selection. You will try to identify which features are important and keep only them in the model. Now let's say in any of linear or logistic model you have, let's say, independent variable 1, 2, 3, and all the way till, let's say, 10. You have independent variables, and let's say these are p values. Let's say this is 1%, this is 9%, this is 3%, and this is, let's say, 33%. Okay, so based on a threshold of 5%, based on this threshold, you will see that this one and this one has higher p-value, right? This independent variable 2 and 10, they have higher than the threshold p-value. So this means that they are not important to the model, so you can omit them. But you don't omit them, so I will not build another model with just independent variable 1, 3. I'll not do that. Okay, I'll not do that right away. What I will do is I will remove this one first, only this first, only this. I won't remove both of them. Why will I not remove both of them? Because sometimes what happens is there is interaction between these two. There is interaction between these two, and that is why both of them are coming as not important. But if you remove one of them, the other one might become important. You never know. So let's say if I remove this and I run it again, then I will have IV1, IV2, and IV3 only till IV9. Okay. Now if you see the p values, this will be 0.01, this will be 0.03, and these are some numbers. Now this might become 001. Yes. So after you just remove this, you may see this. You may see this case that independent variable 2 has also become important. It has come down below the threshold. So you should not remove this. But if you had removed both of these, you would have lost an important variable. So this variable was important. If you had removed both these simultaneously, you would have lost this variable. So that is why we don't remove it simultaneously. We remove one at a time. So you will see which has the highest p value. You will remove that one first and then rerun the model. And then you repeat. Now, even after removing this, if this still has higher p value, then you will remove this as well, but not directly. Do you follow, Naresh? Okay. Now you may ask, if I have 50 variables. Oops. Now you will ask, if I have 50 variables, how will I do this? If I have 50 independent variables, how will I do this? Let's say 10 independent variables are having greater than 5%. Now you cannot run the model so many times, right? Because once I told you, you cannot remove all of them simultaneously. So one by one you will remove. Now you cannot do that for so many independent variables. That is why we have certain automation techniques. So you will hear about forward selection. I think I have this in the LMS also. Briefly, I have talked about this. You have certain automation techniques like forward selection. You have backward elimination, etc. So these are certain automation techniques which automatically does that. It will automatically remove the one which has highest p and then rerun, and so on. Are you following, Naresh? So I think I have this. If you go to linear regression, I have that. Yeah, this one, stepwise regression. This is, I kept this as optional because this is slightly tricky, but this is what it is. Okay. So look at here what I have written. Stepwise regression is a semi-automated process of building models by successively adding or removing variables based on solely the p-value of the estimated coefficients. It is especially useful for shifting through large number of potential independent variables or fine tuning a model by poking variables in or out. Improperly used, it may converge on a poor model while giving you a false sense of security. Okay, so this also has a lot of disadvantages, which is why I did not talk about this, and which is also why this is not very famously used. Okay, we rarely use this, but this is good for interview. You might be asked. Okay, so it is something which you should know. Okay, so there are three ways of doing it. First is forward selection, forward stepwise selection. What this does is this: start with a null model. Okay, the null model has no predictors, just the intercept. So what we will do, we will start just with intercept with a constant, then fit linear regression model, each with one variable in and the intercept. Okay, so you just add one variable first. Okay, you just add one variable, and then now search through the remaining p minus 1 variables and find out which variable should be added to the current model to best improve the sum of squared error. Okay, and this process continues until all variables are less than 5%. Okay, so continue this until some stopping rule is satisfied. The stopping rule is usually, for example, when all remaining variables have a p value above some threshold. Okay, are you following, guys? Similarly, you have another automation thing which is called backward elimination. So here you start with all the variables. Here we started with a null model. Here we start with all variables in the model. Okay, and so on. And there is one more called bidirectional elimination, which is a combination of the above two. It does both. A combination of the above, testing at each step for variable to be included or excluded. Okay. Guys, can you hear me now? Okay, so Sinoj is asking what is the default one. So Sinoj, by default, none of this is done. By default, whatever variables you give is only taken as the features in the model. None of this is done by default. You have to separately write codes to run these. You can easily get the codes. Just Google, you will get the codes to run this. But by default, whatever variables you give, all the variables are selected. Okay, you have seen that already, right? Whichever variables you were giving in the model, you were getting coefficients for those variables. So you had to manually look at the p-value and eliminate the variable. So this is what is done by default. Okay. So I have given the source to this also. So you click on this source and this will take you to the Wikipedia page of stepwise regression. And this talks about the same thing in details. So if you want to know in details of it, you can read this page. Okay. So that is on stepwise regression. It's here at the last section. I have kept this as optional, but it's good if you know this. Because at that point of time when I was teaching linear regression, I did not want to cover a very complex topic because that would only confuse you. But now since you already know very well what is linear regression, you can quickly go and read through this. Okay. Any other questions? Do you have any other questions? This was a good question, Naresh. Yes, guys. For decision tree, this approach, no, Naresh, this only applies for linear regression or and logistic regression, because you get p values only in linear and logistic. You don't get p values in decision trees. So decision trees are built out of computer science, not out of statistics. So you don't have a lot of stats there in decision trees or in random forest. These are non-parametric models which have their origin in computer science, so they don't have a lot of statistics involved. Statistics, you will see a lot of statistics in linear and logistic because they come out of statistics. But you have a lot of parameters in them. In the non-parametric models, you have a lot of parameters which you have to tune. Okay, so that is why yesterday we were learning a technique of cross validation, because how do we find the best value of these parameters, or how do we tune the parameters to get the best model. So for that we have a technique called cross validation, which we covered yesterday. Okay. Okay, so let's move to the topic for today. We will cover random forest. No, no, CV is generally not done to linear and logistic. You can do it, but it is not necessary, because as I'm talking, linear and logistic are not models which have high variance. Cross validation is usually applied to models which have high variance, and linear and logistic, they do not have high variance. They are almost the same model. Even if you change part of your data, the model will remain the same. So doesn't make much sense to apply cross validation to linear and logistic. You will not see people applying cross validation to linear and logistic because they are not high variance model. Cross validation is applied to models which have a high variance, because the moment you change a parameter, the model changes a lot. And in linear and logistic, if you have seen, there are no parameters. We have not used any parameters in linear and logistic. We just have the dependent variable and the independent variables. There are no other parameters which are used. But remember, in decision tree, we had max depth, we had min sample leaves. So we have these parameters for which we have to give some value. In linear logistic, we did not have any parameter like that. We just had the equation, the independent variable, and the variable, but no parameter we had like that. Okay. Now let us see random forest. Now first let us understand what is the necessity of random forest. Okay. Now as we have been discussing for a long time, that decision tree model has high variance. Okay. A decision tree model has high variance. What does it mean? This means that a decision tree model, if you change, this means if you change part of training data, or if you change any parameter value, the model changes a lot. The model changes a lot and gives totally different predictions. Okay, it gives a totally different prediction. That is why it is called high variance. Because if you keep, let's say, max depth of 3, if you keep a max depth of 3, then your model might be predicting somewhere here. Okay, these are the predictions of the model. Now the moment you change the value of max depth, let's say I keep max depth as 4. Now the model will predict something here. The model will predict here. So there is high variance in the prediction of the model. That is why I write here high variance, because there is high variance in the prediction. Okay, high variance. So earlier it was predicting here, now it is started predicting here. So there is high variance in the prediction. Okay, so this is a major disadvantage of a decision tree model, that it has high variance in the prediction. Now how do we fix this? Because decision tree models are great, otherwise they are very interpretable. They give us a nice tree like structure. So you have a nice tree like structure like this which anybody can follow. Even non-technical people can follow a decision tree model, but the only disadvantage is that it has high variance. Now how do we fix this? So we fix this by slightly tuning the model, by slightly changing the model. We slightly change the model, and then we call it a random forest model. So let's study what this is all about. Okay, so all so we have the word random and forest. Now let's study the second word first. So what is a forest? A forest is something which has many trees, right guys? A forest has many trees. So what does this mean? This means that our random forest models is a combination of trees. It's a combination of many trees. It is a combination of many trees. Okay, that is why we call it a forest. Now, a forest does not have the same tree multiple times, right? It has many different kinds of tree. So let me also write different trees. Okay, because a forest has different trees. Okay, not the same tree again and again. Now how do we get different trees? Now remember, if this is our data, let's say this is our training data and this is our test data. Now if we start building multiple decision trees on the training data, we will get the same tree again and again, right guys? If I take some data and if I start running the model, I'll get the same tree again and again. But here I have written different trees. So how can I make the trees different? Is there a way I can make the trees different from each other? Because I want the random forest model to have different kinds of trees, because a forest does not have the same tree again and again, it has different trees. Now how do I make each of the tree different? Now let's say I'm building 100 trees. I'm giving n is equal to 100. That means in this model I'm building 100 different trees. Now how do I make the trees different? What do you think? Yes guys, tell me, how do I make the trees different from each other? These 100 trees, I want them to be different. How can I achieve that? Have different leaves. What leaves? What are you trying to say? I did not get it. Yes, that is a good answer. So we can vary the depth and then make the trees different. Okay. Okay, but that is a little too complex because I'll have to manually decide the depth of every tree, right? See, I'm building 100 trees here. Now deciding the depth of 100 trees, that will be a pain, right? I'll have to give that, okay, first tree let the depth be 1, second tree let the depth be 2, and so on till 100 trees. Now that might be painful. So what should I do then? What is the other simpler way of doing it? There is much more simpler way of doing this. Think, take make a guess. There's a much easier way of doing it actually. So what you guys told is right, but that is a little complex and requires intervention. It requires you to intervene and give the depth. But what is the other way of doing it? Okay, so let me say, so here is what is done. Okay, so how is the model created? The model is created from the different points in the data, right? So remember decision tree, what did I say for high variance? What did I say for high variance? I said that if you change part of your data, the model changes a lot, right? If you change part of your data, the model changes a lot. This was the disadvantage. So we will try to utilize this disadvantage to our advantage. Okay. We will try to address the disadvantage by taking the bull by its horn. What we will do is we will change the data for each of the model. So within the training data, we will keep changing the data. So I have 100 models here. So let's say the first model, in for the first model, I will take some different data. So let's say I will take this data. I will take this data and build the first model. In the second model, let's say I will take this data and build a model. In the third model, I will take this data and build a model, and so on. So I will keep different data like this. I'll keep on changing the data. Okay, I will keep on changing the data, and automatically my model will keep on changing. Automatically the model will keep on changing. Are you getting it, guys? Okay, I'll keep changing the rows that I have in the data, and automatically the model will keep changing because decision trees, they are a high variance model. The moment you change the data or part of your data, the model changes a lot. So I'll keep changing the rows. I will keep changing the rows of each tree. Okay, now you might wonder that changing the rows of each tree also might be painful because I'll have to manually assign which rows goes in which tree. So I will not do it manually. How will I do it? I will do it randomly, and hence the word random forest, because I do this randomly. I will not do this manually or using any kind of intervention here. I will just do it manually. I will just do it randomly. Okay, so randomly I will keep changing the rows that are going into each tree, and automatically the trees will become different. Now this process is called bagging. This process of randomly changing the rows is called bagging. This bagging is short for bootstrap aggregating. Okay, bagging is short for bootstrap aggregating. Okay, this is how the word bagging is formed. Bagging. Okay, so what does bagging mean? Bagging is not a modeling technique, it is a sampling technique. Okay, so bagging is how you sample your data. Now we have utilized the bagging technique to create different trees so that we sample the data differently. We create random samples every time, and since you are creating random samples, the data will keep changing. Now, how do we create? Let's talk about this in details. What we do is, let's say we are building the first tree, tree number one. What we will do, out of, let's say we have n rows in the training data. If we have n rows in the training data, we will select 2/3 of n randomly. Okay, so this will become the data on which we are building the model, and then we will have the remaining 1/3 as the test data. Okay, this becomes your training data, and this is 1/3 is your test data. This is not this test data. Okay, within this I will create a test data. Within this I will create a test data. This is separate. This is what is created by you. So forget about this for the time being. This is created by you. Okay, now within the training data, what random forest will do is, it will take 2/3 of whatever you give in training. So let's say if you have 100 rows, it will take 66 rows randomly from the 100 rows, and the remaining 33 rows it will keep at as test. Okay, this is for the first tree. Do you follow, guys? This is for the first tree. Now similarly, tree 2 will be formed. Now tree 2 will have some other 2/3 of n randomly. Okay, it will have some other 2/3, some other 66 rows from these 100, and some other 33 will be taken as the test. Some other 33 will be taken as the test, and this process will go on. It will go on till 100 trees. Okay, now each tree is looking at a different data, so each tree will be different. And we are not doing it with any logic, we are doing it randomly. So randomly 2/3 of the training data is being taken. So the trees will be different, and that is why it is called random forest. And this process is called bagging. So random forest, it uses the bagging technique to create different subsets of the data, and on each subset it creates a single decision tree. In the same way that we studied a decision tree earlier, in the same way it creates a single decision tree, and this is how the different trees are created in random forest. Any questions so far, guys? Have any questions? So Vikram is asking, no, Sinoj, I was waiting for you guys to ask something. Okay, you have asked already. Okay, just a moment. So Sinoj has a question. Will the randomness ensure that the rows selected will not be picked up in the next? No, Sinoj, it will be picked up, but not all of them will be picked up. See, it is 2/3 of n. So 66 rows. So I'm taking 100 such samples. So obviously you will not have, it is random selection with replacement, not without replacement. Okay. So the same row might be selected again. Okay. The same row might be selected again. So yeah, let me mention this. It is random selection with replacement, not without replacement. So the same row might be selected again. Okay. It's like you have a ball of different colored marbles. You are picking one marble from the bag, noting the color of it, and then putting it back into the bag. And then you are picking another marble again. So the same marble also might appear again. Okay. It is random sample with replacement. Okay. Now Vikram has a question. It can have duplicate rows but different combinations. Yes, but you will never have all 66 of them same. So whatever 66 rows you have here, the same 66 will not appear again here, because it is very unlikely, right? Okay, you answered, Sinoj. Because it is very unlikely that all 66 you got the same. So it is like you have a bag of colored marbles. Okay. Now let's say I go and pick some 66. Let's say there are 100 marbles in the bag, all of different colors. So I go and pick 66 marbles with replacement and I note the colors. Now next another person goes and does the same. Will he get the exact same colors as I got? Very unlikely. It is very unlikely, almost like impossible, that whatever 66 colors I got out of 100 colors, the next person also got the same 66 colors. That is very unlikely. Okay. So did I answer your question, Sinoj? Okay. Okay. Now another thing to discuss here is that, now what was seen, okay, now what was seen that even so now, you guys are convinced that this will create different trees? Are you guys convinced that each of the trees will now be different because they are looking at different sets of rows? Are you guys convinced now? Okay. But what was seen is that even though this process should ideally give you different trees, but what was seen by people who created this algorithm is that bagging alone was not giving very different trees. The trees were turning out to be almost same. They were different but not very different. What they wanted, to reduce the variance of decision trees, they wanted the trees to be very different from one another. But using this process of bagging, the trees were not very different. They were somewhat different but not very different. So the model was not able to perform better because they were not very different from one another. Okay. So additionally what they did, so we have already changed the rows that are going into the data, right guys? The rows, we have changed the rows that are going into the data. Now what else can we do to create different trees? What else can be done? So rows we have already taken care. Yes, exactly. No, we will change the columns, Naresh. We will not change the parameters, we will change the columns. So because this is the simplest way, right? Change the rows and change the columns. So each tree will see different rows. So right now each tree is looking at different row, but the columns are the same. Each tree is looking at the same column. Now what we will do, we will change the columns also. So that this tree will see different columns, this tree will see different columns, and so on. So each tree will see a different set of row. Each tree will also see a different set of columns. So automatically the trees will become very different, because different rows and different columns means entirely different data. Yes, that's what I'm talking about, features. Columns means features. Okay. So changing the rows means bagging. This process is called bagging. And change the columns also. We do not have a special name for this, but changing the rows is called bagging, whatever we studied. And we will change the columns also. Now, how do we change the columns? We do that also randomly. That is why the word random forest. Okay. Even changing the columns is done randomly. So how is it done? So let's say we have p columns. If we have a total of p columns, by default you will take root p columns randomly for each tree. Okay. So if you have 25 columns, you will take 5 columns randomly. Okay. Which 5? Randomly you will take any 5. So that means, what does that mean? That means the first tree that you have, the first tree will take, let's say, root p columns randomly. Okay. Then the second tree will also take root p columns randomly. Now, since it is taking randomly out of all of them, this p will be different, this root p will be different than this root p, and so on. So each of these root p's will be different from one another. There might be some columns which are appearing again, but more or less they will be different. Okay. So out of 25, you are taking any 5, for example. So any 5 columns you will select and build this tree. So this tree will see some 5 columns. The next tree will see some other 5 columns. So the trees will be very different now, because they are looking at different rows and they are looking at different columns. Similarly, here also different rows and different columns. So now the trees that you get will be very different from one another. Okay. So our goal is achieved. Our goal of getting different trees. Our goal of getting different trees is achieved now. Why do we want different trees? Because we want to reduce variance. We want to reduce variance. Okay. Is that clear? So this is all the theory that you need to know about decision trees, about random forest, guys. Okay. So this is all the theory that you need to know about random forest. Just one more thing. Now remember, we had taken 2/3 of the data here as training and 1/3 as test, right? Now another advantage of random forest is that you can calculate the accuracy of the model on this 1/3 data. Okay. And that is called out of bag error. So since this data is outside the bag, the model is being built on this 2/3 and it will predict on this 1/3. So this error that you get on this remaining 1/3 is called out of bag error, or OOB error. Okay. This is out of bag error. Okay. So you can look at this score and get an idea of how good the random forest model is. Okay. If you look at this, you can get an idea of how good the random forest model is. Okay. Another advantage of random forest is that it gives you the value of variable importance. Okay. Variable importance. So in random forest, you get something called a variable importance. So it will give you in, what is this variable importance? It will give you in decreasing order. It will give you in decreasing order the importance of variables. The importance of the independent variables. Okay. So which variable is most important? It will draw a graph like this. Let's say independent variable 3. Then independent variable 4 is slightly less important. Independent variable 1 is next. Independent variable 2 is, let's say, here. So this way it will give you a plot, that which is the most important variable, which is the second most important, and so on. So from this, you can understand that, okay, this variable is very important. Just like looking at p values, right? In linear and logistic, you look at p values and you decide which variable is most important, which is not. Here, look, you can look at variable importance plot. Okay, and then you can decide which variable is more important than others. Do you follow, guys? So now you can see the algorithm is, yes, it has that is why it is very widely used, right? That is why I said I have a random forest model at my office, because it has a lot of advantages. Okay, and it is very easy to implement also. You will see the codes today itself. So you will see it doesn't require a lot of codes, just 2 or 3 lines of code and you are done. Okay, and it is like building several different models. Yes, yes, Naresh, you are right, but you should understand the theory behind it. That's where, yes, the codes will do most of the things, but you should understand the theory, because you should understand where it can go wrong also. Okay, there are a few places where it can go wrong also, which is not required at this level, but yeah, it has a few weaknesses also. Okay, any other questions from this before we move to the codes? Just give me a moment, I'll get the file. So meanwhile, do you have any questions on the theory? Okay, so let's jump to the codes directly. I'll use the same example which I had used for decision tree. Okay, so if you remember, that was on the quality data set. Okay, where we are trying to predict a binary variable. So we are trying to predict a binary variable using a few other independent variables. Okay, so first I'll import all the libraries like NumPy, Pandas, Matplotlib. Then I read the data, and then I divide my data into train and test. Okay, so I'm only using 2 columns for this example because I want to keep the example simple, understandable. So I'm using only 2 columns. So you see here, except okay, so I'm dropping the member ID from here. Member ID is like an identifier. It's just a serial number. So I have dropped that, and I have also dropped the dependent variable. So poor care is my dependent variable. I have dropped that from the column, and then I'm dividing my data into train and test. Okay, so this you are already clear with how we do this. Now next I'm running a decision tree model. So this is just a decision tree. We have already seen this. So let me quickly go through this. Okay, so I'll get a few errors here because I don't have the bracket after print function. Okay, because this was written in 2.7, but now I have upgraded to 3.5, but I don't have that print thing taken care. So let me just fix it. No sound, guys. Are you able to hear me? Okay. X underscore train not found. Why is that? I have my X underscore train here. Is not defined. Okay. Okay, so wherever I have print, I will just add a bracket. So these are codes that we have seen for decision tree. There is no change here. Okay, so I'll directly jump to. So this is what we saw yesterday. Okay, this is k-fold cross validation codes. We saw this yesterday. Let me get rid of all of this. I have already shared a separate piece for that. Yeah, so this is where random forest is. Okay, so let's discuss these codes. Okay, so it's very simple, guys. What you will do first is you will import random forest classifier. Now random forest model is also known as an ensemble model. So what is an ensemble model? An ensemble model is where you build several models and merge them. So since in random forest we are building several trees and then merging them, it is also known as an ensemble model. There are a few other ensemble models also. We will discuss about them later. But random forest is also an ensemble model because there are many models into this. Okay, it is a combination of different decision trees. So what I will do from sklearn.ensemble, I will import the random forest classifier. Okay, if you are doing random forest for regression, you will import random forest regressor. Okay, so the moment you do this, you will see there will be two options, so classifier and regressor, depending upon whether your problem is a classification case or a regression case, you will select the correct one. Okay, then what have I given? I have given the same function which I have imported here, and I have given n underscore estimators as 1500. So what is this n underscore estimators? N underscore estimator is the number of trees you want, so you will decide how many trees you want. Okay, so remember, random forest creates several decision trees. So here I want to create 1500 decision trees. Okay, so that's why I have given 1500. Now you will ask what is the best number I should select. Now you can give any large number. As long as it is a large number, it will give you the same accuracy. So it doesn't matter if you select 1500 or 1800 or 2000. Generally it will be a large number. A large number will give you a good accuracy. So it is like this. So if I have to draw the value of n underscore estimators or number of trees, okay, and let's say this is your accuracy, it looks like this. So initially if your trees is very few, your accuracy will be less, and then it will increase, and after some point it will stabilize after some point. Okay, so that means as long as you keep a large number, it is the same. So whether you keep 1200 or whether you keep 1500 or 2000, it doesn't matter a lot, because at all these points the accuracy is almost the same. But you should not keep a very small number like 50 or 100, because there it will be less. Okay, it will be less at 50 or 100. So keep somewhere around close to 1000. Okay, so that is on the n underscore estimator part. Now you will ask max features. What is this max features? So max feature is that number of columns that should go. By default, this is root p as we discussed, but here I'm giving only two. That means only two should go. So randomly any two columns should be chosen and passed to a single decision tree. That is this max underscore features column. Okay. Do you follow, guys? And then finally we have OOB score is equal to true. So remember we discussed about out of bag error. If you want to see those errors, you will write OOB score is equal to true. Otherwise you just ignore this. Okay, I have mentioned all this as a comment here. What are these quantities? And then, so this is, you create an empty wrapper with these values and then you fit the data. So I will write rfc dot fit train and y train. So this is how you do any model in Python. Okay, and then you predict using a random forest. You predict in the same way, you pass your training data. So I have predicted on the training data and then this is my training data accuracy. Similarly, I can predict on the test data and calculate my test data accuracy. Okay, so you can see my training data accuracy is 100%, error is 0. Okay, but I cannot just say that my model is very good looking at the training data accuracy because it might have overfit. So I'll also check the test data accuracy. Here you see I have slightly small error I have. So six points I'm making wrong. So if you check the accuracy, it is 85%. My test accuracy is 85%. Okay. Now if you want to see the out of bag error, you can calculate 1 minus out of bag score. Okay, so out of bag error is 1 minus name of the model dot this function. This is a function. So you will see it is around 20%. So 20% is the error. Okay, and here we also saw on the test data 85% is the accuracy. Okay, so remember the out of bag error is not on the test data that you have assigned. That is on the internal test data which random forest creates. Always remember this fact, guys, don't forget. Okay, remember. So first what you will do, you will have a training data and you will have a test data, right? Now random forest, what it will do, from the training data it will create 2/3 of n as training and the remaining 1/3 as test. This will be done for each tree. Okay, so the error, the out of bag error is the error on this test data, not on this you will have to find by predicting. You will have to find this by first predicting and etc. Whatever you do for all algorithms. But this is the additional thing which random forest gives you. So this error is 20%, and here the accuracy is 85%. This is what we are getting. Are you following, guys? So this is the out of bag error, and after that you just look at the different parameters. If you want, you can look at the different parameters that we have. So precision, recall, F1 score, everything. And finally, let us look at the variable importance plot that we were discussing. So this is the variable importance plot. So you see it has given me. So if you see the variables that we have in the model, these are the variables that we have. Okay, so it has given a ranking of all the variables. So for example, this variable is the most important. Okay, the next variable is the second most important, and so on. So this is very helpful if we get a variable importance like this. So this means the last few variables are not very important. You can ignore them. The first few are very important. Okay, so I have written the usage of the variable importance plot here. Find out which variables are causing our variable of interest. Okay, obviously. Then this helps to find causality and eliminate less important variables. We can select the important variables from above plot and use them to build a linear or logistic model. So this is also done because in linear and logistic, the process of finding the important variables is a little difficult because you have to iterate many times, look at the p values and so on. So what a lot of people do, they run a random forest model, identify which are the important variables, and then take the important variables and then run a linear or logistic model again. Okay, so this is also done. So have you followed, guys? Is are things clear? So once you look at the codes, it will be, you'll have a better idea. Once you run it on some example data set, you will have a better idea. So I'll try to give a case study before, by in the next couple of days I'll try to add a case study on random forest also. So please try to do it, guys. Please try to stay with the class. That is where you learn the max. Okay. Any doubts, guys? Do you have any questions? Any questions, guys? So this is all I had for today, guys. There's nothing more that I wanted to cover. This is a very important algorithm. So please make sure you understand this algorithm well. Okay. So next week we'll move to unsupervised learning. So we have seen a lot of supervised learning. Next week we will try and learn a few unsupervised learning techniques. Okay. So next week class will be totally new. So that will have no relation with whatever has been covered so far. So please try to attend the next week's class. Okay. So I'm telling this for the recording so that people who are not uh, going with the class or who are lagging behind with respect to the class also should attend, because that will be a totally new class, a totally new concept. Okay.